Hey bookworms, welcome back to Book to Read. It's episode 10 already.
Wow, 10 already.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Time flies when you're having fun discussing books.
It really does.
And speaking of books today, we are cracking open a true classic.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
It's one that's been on my to-reread list forever. Gone with the Wind?
Oh, Gone with the Wind. Now that's a story that never gets old.
It really doesn't, and for this deep dive, we're focusing on Scarlett O'Hara.
Scarlett, such a complex character.
There's so many questions swirling around her.
Like what?
Well, is she a product of her times? Does she actually grow as a person? And how much of her journey is shaped by the men around her? It's fascinating.
Okay, I see where you're going with this. It's like we're trying to unravel the enigma that is Scarlett O'Hara.
Exactly. So where do we even begin with a character like Scarlett? I mean, she's such a force of nature.
Well, I think we need to start in that quintessential antebellum South.
Okay, paint me a picture.
Imagine those grand plantations, the lavish balls, the intricate social hierarchy. Scarlett, in her youth, is the epitome of a Southern belle.
But there's always more than meets the eye with Scarlett.
Exactly. Beneath that charming facade, she's already exhibiting a strong sense of self-preservation, even if it's masked by societal expectations. Remember, Mitchell subtly critiques societal expectations through Scarlett's character.
I'm not sure I follow.
Scarlett's charm, her manipulative tactics, they're not just personality traits.
What are they then?
They're tools. Tools she uses to navigate a world where women are expected to be, well, demure and submissive.
Ah, I see. So she's playing the game by their rules, but bending them to her advantage.
Exactly, and she does it brilliantly, like when she pretends to be interested in Charles Hamilton just to pique Ashley Willis's interests.
Oh, that scene is classic Scarlett. Playing the field to get what she wants.
And it works. Which brings us to another important point.
Look at that.
She understands men. She sees right through them. Remembers that line she compares understanding men to a mathematical formula.
Oh, yes. It was like a mathematical formula. I love that line.
It's perfect, right? So, is this where we start to see Scarlett's agency emerging?
Is she using manipulation as a form of power in a society that denies her overt power?
I think that's a very sharp observation. To understand how this agency develops, we need to look at her family dynamics. On the one hand, you have Ellen.
Her mother.
Yes, embodying those traditional Southern values. She's the model Southern woman.
And then you have Scarlett, who even from a young age chafes against those expectations.
Precisely. It's this constant push and pull between Scarlett's desires and the societal pressures she faces. And then there's Mammy.
Oh, Mammy, the voice of reason.
Exactly. The one who constantly calls Scarlett out on her behavior. What's fascinating about Mammy is that she represents a perspective that transcends those rigid boundaries of Southern society.
She's the grounding force in Scarlett's life, always there to bring her back to reality.
Right. Mammy's presence underscores this theme of authenticity versus societal expectations that we see throughout Scarlett's journey. It's a recurring theme in Gone with the Wind.
Okay, so we've established this foundation of pre-war Scarlett. Charming, manipulative, and already exhibiting a strong sense of self, even if it's masked by society's expectations.
Yes, but then comes the Civil War.
And everything changes.
Literally explodes that world. Literally and figuratively.
How does Scarlett react to the war? Initially, at least.
Well, remember, she's almost annoyed by it at first.
She just wants to keep having fun.
Right. It highlights her naivete, but it also sets the stage for her incredible transformation. And it starts subtly.
Subtly? How so?
Like when Atlanta becomes a hospital base, and she's forced to work at the bazaar. Finds it tedious, but there's this spark, a hint of change.
So that leads us to the question, is she actually changing, or is she just adapting to survive?
It's a good question, and I think it's a bit of both. On the surface, she's doing what she has to do to get by, but underneath, there's more there. You see the seeds of something deeper. She's being forced to confront her own limitations, to step outside her comfort zone.
And this is where we start to see those key turning points in her journey, right?
Exactly.
Ashley leaving for war, her desperate confession, his rejection.
Ouch, talk about a blow to the ego.
Seriously.
That rejection is pivotal. It shatters her idealized image of Ashley, forcing her to confront the reality of who he is and what he represents.
And speaking of seeing through facades, enter Rhett Butler.
The one man who can handle Scarlett.
Right. He refuses to be fooled by her charades.
He understands her in a way no one else does.
He seems to see her potential,
Her strength, even when she doesn't see it herself. He's a catalyst for her growth.
even though they have a very complicated relationship.
Oh, absolutely. Their relationship is a roller coaster from the very beginning. Their first meeting is electric.
Oh, I know. That handkerchief incident, their banter. Mitchell knew how to create sparks on the page.
It's not just romantic tension.
No, it's more than that.
It's a clash of ideology.
Of perspectives on the changing world.
Exactly. He represents a worldview that challenges everything Scarlett holds dear.
He's a reminder that the world is not as simple or as romantic as she'd like to believe.
Right. And then, of course, there's the fall of Atlanta.
And the chaotic escape with Melanie and the baby.
And the return to a devastated Tara.
These moments truly break her.
They do. They force her to rebuild herself from the ground up.
It's a brutal awakening for Scarlett.
It really is. The world she knew, the world she clung to is gone.
And she's forced to confront the realities of survival,
Not just for herself.
but for those who depend on her.
Right. And this is where we really start to see that question of growth versus adaptation come to the forefront.
It does, doesn't it?
She makes some ruthless choices. Marrying Frank Kennedy for financial security, exploiting Rhett's war profiteering to save Tara.
Those actions really blur the lines, don't they?
They do. Between survival and self-preservation.
It's a fascinating dilemma, isn't it?
It is. How far would you go to protect those you love? To secure your own survival?
Scarlett's journey forces us to confront these questions head on.
In a very visceral way.
You know, I'm already seeing Scarlett in a new light. And we've only just scratched the surface.
Oh, we've only just begun. Her story gets even more complex, even more challenging as she navigates the post-war South.
We'll dive into all of that and more.
After a quick break.
Speaking of navigating a new world, have you ever wished there was a space
A space for what?
where you could connect with fellow bookworms and discuss these mind-blowing character arcs?
Oh, like a book club, but online.
Exactly. Like, imagine a platform where you could share quotes, organize your TBR list, and basically geek out over all things literary.
I mean, that's basically my dream come true.
Well, your dream has officially come true because that's exactly what Bookspace is all about.
Wait, really?
Really.
Tell me more.
Think virtual book clubs, character analysis threads. You could even debate whether Scarlett made the right choices.
I love that.
It's a community app designed for book lovers like us to connect, share, and dive deeper into the worlds we love.
I am so downloading this app, like, right now.
Don't wait. Head over to your app store and download Bookspace today.
Okay, I will.
Trust me, it's a game changer.
I can't wait to see what everyone else thinks about Scarlett. All those strong opinions.
Now let's get back to dissecting this complex character. We've covered pre-war Scarlett, the war's impact, and the beginnings of her transformation.
But we're not done yet.
Nope, the story doesn't stop there.
There's still so much more to unpack.
Next, we'll delve deeper into her post-war struggles, her complicated relationships, and whether she ultimately achieves true growth or simply becomes a master of adaptation.
This is going to be good. So we left off with Scarlett facing a South that's been totally reshaped. She's lost her innocence, her social standing.
It is surrounded by loss, really.
Yet she doesn't crumble. In fact, it's in these moments of desperation that we see her true resilience emerge.
That scene where she stands in those ravaged fields of Tara and vows to never be hungry again,
Oh, yeah.
it gives me chills every time.
It's powerful, right? Scarlett, defiant, against the backdrop of a fallen world. But her survival instincts, they often come at a cost.
That's true.
She manipulates her sisters, marries for financial security, and even leverages Rhett's, well, let's call them.
Business ventures.
Yes, his business ventures to secure Tara's future.
Speaking of Rhett, their relationship really takes center stage in this part of the book, doesn't it? It's a whirlwind of passion and conflict,
It is.
but also a testament to how much Scarlett has changed.
What do you mean?
It's clear that she's drawn to his strength, his worldliness, the way he sees right through her. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it. And it's interesting because their dynamic challenges those conventional romantic tropes.
In what way?
Rhett isn't some chivalrous knight.
Yeah.
He's a cynical realist
He is.
who calls Scarlett out on her games. And Scarlett, she's no damsel in distress. She's a force to be reckoned with.
She really is. Their banter is electric. Like when he gifts her that stunning green bonnet.
Oh, yes. That was a bold move.
Right. Considering the norms of the time.
Exactly. It's almost like a symbolic rejection of those expectations. And the fact that she wears it proudly speaks volumes
It's out.
about her growing independence. She's willing to break the rules to embrace her desires, even if it means facing disapproval. Which, of course, Rhett loves.
But their relationship is far from a fairy tale.
No, it isn't.
He tries to guide her, to help her see how the world is changing.
What?
She's fixated on Ashley, clinging to a past that's, well, gone with the wind.
It's the tragedy of it all. He sees her potential, but she's blinded by this idealized image of Ashley. Classic case of right person, wrong time, wouldn't you say?
You could say that. He loves her for her strength, but she's unable to see the true love that's right in front of her.
Now, let's not forget the loss of Ellen, Scarlett's mother.
That's a turning point for sure.
It is. It's a devastating blow and forces her to take on a role she never wanted.
The caretaker. The responsible one.
Exactly. How do you think this loss shapes her?
It's a pivotal moment for sure.
Yeah.
Suddenly, it's not just about her own survival. She has to care for her family, including the delicate Melanie and her newborn baby. It's a burden, but it reveals a strength she didn't know she had.
It does. She becomes this pillar of strength.
While grieving her own losses.
Which, let's face it, are piling up.
They are. Her first husband, Charles, the fall of Atlanta, the devastation of Tara, the deaths of countless friends and neighbors.
It's a lot for anyone to handle.
It is. And yet Scarlett doesn't break. She bends, she adapts, she claws her way back.
She's a survivor through and through.
This makes me think about something you mentioned earlier about Scarlett trying to cling to the traditions of the Old South even as the world around her is changing.
Right.
Do you think that struggle contributes to her more ruthless actions?
I do, absolutely. Scarlett represents this fierce attachment to a romanticized vision of the South.
A vision that no longer exists.
That's the problem. That vision has been shattered by the war.
So what happens?
She's left grappling with the pieces, trying to rebuild something from the ashes of a lost world. Doesn't that sound almost impossible?
It does. It's like she's constantly battling these opposing forces.
Yeah.
The old world versus the new.
Her desires versus her obligations.
Who she is versus who she thinks she needs to be.
And that tension, that's what makes her so compelling.
Compelling, but also frustrating at times.
Right, because we see her struggle, we see her make mistakes, and we see her learn, however imperfectly, from them.
That's true. She's not perfect, but she is human.
Exactly. She's not a saint, not a villain. She's just human. And I think that's why, even with all her flaws, I find myself rooting for her.
I get that. She's scrappy, she's resourceful, and she refuses to give up.
Yeah.
That's inspiring in a way, isn't it?
It is. I think we all have a bit of Scarlett O'Hara in us. That desire to fight for what we believe in.
To protect those we love.
To overcome obstacles.
Exactly. And it's that spirit of resilience that makes her such an enduring character.
It does. And it's a spirit that resonates with readers across generations. We may not always agree with her choices.
No, we don't.
But there's something undeniably captivating about a woman who refuses to be defeated.
We've covered so much ground. But we haven't even touched on the aftermath of the war, her tumultuous third marriage.
Or that iconic final line.
Tomorrow is another day.
It's a statement of hope, of resilience.
It is.
But it also leaves us with a question. Has Scarlett truly learned from her experiences, or is she destined to repeat the same mistakes?
That's the question, isn't it? But before we jump into the final chapter of Scarlett's story, let's take a moment to talk about something exciting for all you book lovers out there.
Okay, I'm all ears. What is it?
Well, how often do you find yourself wishing you had a space to connect with other readers, to dissect these complex characters, like a platform where you could share your favorite quotes?
Oh, and organize my ever-growing TBR pile.
Yes. And just geek out with fellow bookworms.
Honestly, that sounds amazing. Does such a place exist?
It does. It's called Bookspace.
Bookspace, okay.
And it's a community app designed for book lovers like us to connect, share, and dive deeper into the stories they love.
Wait, so I could have a whole group chat dedicated to debating Scarlett O'Hara's life choices?
Yes, exactly.
Sign me up.
You can create virtual book clubs, swap theories, and even get recommendations tailored to your tastes.
It's perfect. I need this app in my life.
Download Bookspace today and join a community of passionate readers. Trust me, you won't regret it.
Consider me officially a Bookspace convert.
Okay, now back to Scarlett and that whirlwind journey of hers. We have explored her pre-war naivete, the war's impact, and the beginnings of her transformation. But there's still so much to unravel. Next, we'll dive into the aftermath of the war, her turbulent relationship with Rhett, and ultimately, that question of whether she finds redemption or simply repeats the cycle of her past. So, where were we? Oh, right, post-war South, and Scarlett facing a world that's nothing like what she once knew.
Gone is the innocence, gone is her social standing. Everything she took for granted, just gone.
The war really stripped away any naivete she had, didn't it?
It did. No more pampered belle. Now we see a woman forged in hardship. Pragmatic, resourceful, absolutely driven by this fierce determination to rebuild her life, but especially Tara.
She's almost operating in a new world now with different rules.
Right.
So do you think she's truly changed, or is it just, another adaptation?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think it's a little of both,
Yeah.
Scarlett's always going to be about self-preservation, right? But there's a shift. She's not just worried about herself now.
It's not just Scarlett anymore.
Exactly. There's responsibility now. Her family. The future of Tara.
It makes me think of that scene where she challenges her own father.
About Tara, you mean?
Yes. Takes over the management. Pretty bold move for a woman back then, especially in the South.
It shows you how much she's grown. Not afraid to take charge, defy expectation.
Do what needs to be done.
Exactly. Even if it means going against what women were supposed to do.
And don't forget that scene with Jonas Wilkerson, the overseer.
Oh, man.
She stands up to him, doesn't back down,
Yeah.
takes control.
Mhm.
It's amazing to see.
It really is. You see her strength there, Her willingness to fight for what she believes in.
But it also shows how ruthless she can be.
That's true. She's not afraid to bend the rules.
Manipulate.
To take those hard choices, even if they're not, completely ethical.
And then, of course, there's the whole Frank Kennedy situation.
Oh, yeah, marrying him.
Purely for financial security. Do you think there was any love there?
It's complicated, isn't it? I think she admires him,
For his kindness.
Yeah, and his stability. But she's also using him to secure her position, to save Tara. And sadly, it pushes Red away.
It's tough to watch their relationship falling apart.
It is. He loves her, for that fire, that resilience.
But Ashley's still there.
That darn Ashley, clinging to the past like it's still there.
And she just doesn't get Rhett,
Thinks he's indifferent.
when really it's just his way.
They both carry so much from the war, so much pain, it keeps them apart, even though there's love there.
A classic case of right person, wrong time.
Absolutely. And then Bonnie,
Oh, the loss of Bonnie, their daughter.
it breaks Rhett. Leaves him drained emotionally.
And Scarlett, with no illusions left, she finally has to face what she's done.
That's Mitchell's brilliance, isn't it?
What do you mean?
She doesn't shy away from the tough stuff, the consequences of our actions.
Even in those dark moments,
There's still hope.
tomorrow is another day. Such a powerful line to end it all.
It is. Heartbreaking, but hopeful. You see Scarlett's spirit there, never giving up, even when it seems like everything's gone.
But it makes you wonder, will she really learn? Will she let go of the past and, actually embrace the future?
That's for each of us to decide, I think.
As readers,
Exactly. But what we can say for sure is this. Scarlett's journey, it reminds us
of what?
that even when things seem impossible,
When there's so much loss.
the human spirit, it endures, it adapts, it finds a way to go on.
It's a story that sticks with you long after you've finished it. Makes you think about your own life, your own choices.
And how complicated people really are.
And on that note, we'll wrap up our epic deep dive into Gone with the Wind. I'm adding this back to my TBR pile for sure.
Me too. Always something new to discover in the classics, right?
Absolutely. Thank you all for joining us on this journey. We explored Scarlett, her relationships, her strength. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive. And join us next time on Book to Read as we explore another literary world and delve into the hearts and minds of more unforgettable characters. Until then, happy reading, bookworms.